Legends League is as competitive as it has ever been since the arrival of Town Hall 16. And if you're tired of having your defense log look like this for the past seasons, let's go find out how we can fix that. Yo everybody, before we move on to the 3 different bases that we're going to be looking at today, I wanted to quickly touch base on the defensive clan castle troops that I've been using this whole season, and that has been the 3 ice golems and 5 archers. And my reasoning behind this is that simply that these troops are always going to do something for the root rider attacks that have been hitting you almost every day, and they're always going to help stall the root riders down and maybe even kill them if they're under a lot of damage during the time they encounter them. And if you want defenses like this, then let's go find out what bases we're going to be using. So the first base we are going to be looking at here is indeed the ring bases, and this by far has to be my favorite base style to use in Legends League. And my reasoning for this is pretty simple, because right now there's not a lot of defenses, but the defenses you do get, you want to make sure they're the big defenses, because this is going to help you get the most positive cups on the day. And this base was actually built by some of the members in Synchronic. I'm not sure who exactly built it, but we did make a video a week ago about their bases that they used when they won the golden ticket last month, so make sure to go check that out if you're looking for more bases from these guys, because they're absolutely insane at base building. But let's try and break down this base first. So what we're going to be looking at firstly is the root rider pathing, because I know that you might be getting hit by other strategies, but right now the majority of Legends League is simply just root riders. So we want to make sure that when we're setting a base for defense, we want it to defend root riders, or at least have the best chance at defending them. And what makes this base good to defend against root riders is that it doesn't have any clear entries. And what I mean by this is that when you usually look at a base and you're just the casual root rider attacker that might encounter you in Legends League, they're going to want to go into a side. And the sides on this base are pretty much the queen pad over here, the RC pad over here, the eagle, and the monolith. Those are the 4 sides of a base. And now with the way this base is really set up, you can't go into either of the sides with your root riders, because as you see over here, like by the RC compartment, there's 2 storages and a gold mine and the RC pad obviously, but there's no defenses there. So there's no pathing directly to this multi-target inferno tower here for the root riders to go into. And that's the same thing on this side. And also the eagle here, you can see there's a king and there's 2 storages. There's no defenses in front of the eagle that a root rider can directly target and make their way into. And the similar story for this monolith compartment over here is it has the dark elixir storage and a dark elixir drill, which no one is going to be able to root spam into. And when you shut down these side entries, it basically forces the attacker to do something they're not really used to. And this is what really makes a high level Legends League base right now, because you want to make sure that the attacker doesn't have an easy automatic plan. So for example, if I was to move these bomb towers like over here, then the attacker might be like, oh, let me just spam into the eagle, because the root riders can just directly target the bomb towers and then make their way to the eagle and have an easy path to the core of the base, which is not what you want, especially not on ring bases. But I think this applies to all bases, which we're going to be covering later in this video as well. So when you cut down the side entries, let's think about what entries this really opens up. And when we're thinking about the entries this really opens up, you can see when you first open the base that the only way you can really carve your root riders to go into the base is from a corner. And when you look at the corners, they have defenses, so obviously it makes up a perfect chance for an attacker to want to go into, for example, this expo corner or this expo corner, or even these 2 up here. But regardless, what do you do to make sure that this doesn't work? And this is where the traps really have a key role, because you can basically alter the root rider pathing to where you want them to go by using traps. And the traps, when I say traps, I mainly mean the Teslas, because this can really ruin the root rider pathing. So if we were to look at the traps really quickly on this base, ignore everything else, just look at these 2 Teslas over here. And what these 2 Teslas are essentially doing is that they're basically making the entries from this 12 o'clock side and this 9 o'clock side really hard. And what I mean by this is because if you spam your root riders in from the 12 o'clock side, they're most likely all going to converse on this Expo here by taking out these few defenses in front of it, and then they're going to go to the builder hut, and then the Tesla helps pull all the root riders in so that they go towards the eagle. And now you're probably wondering, what am I looking for when I'm placing Teslas? How do I know where to alter the pathing to? And this is where I will be explaining the meaning of these rage towers. And the rage towers are good because they serve as a high damage threshold point like on the base automatically. But when you use Teslas to draw the root riders away from those rage towers, and the longer those rage towers stay up and the more damage they deal, the weaker those root riders are going to get. So we're basically using our 2 Teslas here to pull everything away from these 2 rage towers. And when we pull the troops away, the attacker is going to be forced to make a funnel on the other side to like in a complete, like they'll be in panic and they'll want to get their troops to the core obviously because it's a ring base. But when they do this, they're going to encounter a lot of damage, and by the time they actually fix their funnel, a lot of root riders will already be weakened. And as far as the other traps go, I just have the spring traps against the headhunters here as well as over here, and I'm mainly using my seeking air mines on the outside. Now when I'm talking about this, I really mean it, because I do not think that you will ever want to defend any air entry really in Legends League right now, because speaking from experience, I've only been getting hit by root riders for like a really long time. Maybe the occasional Zap Lalo player hits me here and there, but it's just root riders. And the reason I'm taking so long to explain this part is because it's really important that you have all your traps set for the root riders and not really worrying about the air attacks, because at the end of the day, even like 2 defenses in a Legends day could help you go positive if you go perfectly 320, you know? So that's why it's important that you're setting everything against one army. And the current meta that we're in, that one army is pretty easy to guess. It's just going to be a form of root rider spam. So that's why all my traps are towards that right now. And especially on ring bases, I want you to make a note that it's very important to have your big bombs and your small bombs all in the core of the base. Avoid putting them on the outside like we're used to from older metas. In the core of the base, they're the best because that's where the root riders are always going to end up most of the time. Even if the attacker uses an overgrowth spell, they will still end up in the core, and that's going to ensure that all those bombs hit. And on the outside, they might not hit all the time. And that's pretty much it. And speaking of like other features in this base that make it good, I would say that the town hall being surrounded by walls is actually really important, because what this does is that so when you think about root riders, they only target defenses, and when the town hall is not active, it's not a defense. So the root riders cannot open the walls that are surrounding the town hall, and therefore the king, when he's in the core of the base somehow, he wouldn't be able to take down the town hall because there's walls around it. Now the only way that the root rider would open these walls is if the town hall gets activated, and when the town hall gets activated and the root rider goes to it, then it opens the wall for the king. But this can easily be missed by some attackers, you know, they're not going to be ready for it, and it can even lead to some 1-star defenses. And that's why I love ring bases. But that doesn't mean that's the only style of base that works in Legends League. Let's move on to the next style, which is going to be the box base. Alright guys, and now we are moving on to the box base, and this has to be one of my favorite box bases that I've used in a very long time. And the reasoning behind this is that it's all the same things that we mentioned about in ring bases, about the root rider pathing and how this base complicates that pretty much. And this base here, actually, before we get into it, I do want to give credits to Ghost, who actually built this base, and it did really good for me in Legends League and in some esports wars as well. So let's basically dive into the same process that we dived into with the ring base that we just talked about, and let's look at the sides. And when we're looking at the sides here, you can see that there's no defenses in front of the monolith here, only gold storages, so there's no direct pathing into the monolith. That's one side. And then the other side, right on over, is the Barbarian King and storages, protecting this multi. You can't really spam into it. But then you're also thinking, well, there's actually defenses in front of the scatter shots here. So isn't that what you literally just told us not to do? Well, not necessarily. So basically, you can have defenses in front of like major buildings in a side, but you need to realize that over here, when you spam into this ricochet cannon and bomb tower, the root riders actually pat their way to this archer tower, from this cannon to this archer tower to this X-bow, and from this bomb tower to this air defense to this X-bow. Nothing actually is going to the scatter shot, and you can use your defenses in such ways that they basically create a path for the root riders that you can actually predict. And root riders is known to be a spammy hit, and usually people just think that, oh, it's a spammy hit, you can't really predict where this is going to go, where that's going to go. But when it's a spammy hit with something that only hits defenses, you can control where the root riders are going. Basically, you literally just, same thing over here, it's going to be from this ricochet cannon to this archer tower, some will split to this warden over here, some will split to this X-bow over here, but never will like the whole pack ever split to this scatter shot. It's always going to be just that one or two that might strand off to the scatter shot, and then that's where you have this single target inferno covering it. So if that one odd root rider splits off the scatter shot, it's still going to die because of this inferno tower here. And another good thing that I really like about this base is that the invisibility spell tower. So let's have a look at the spell towers. I know we didn't really touch base on them a lot in the last one, but that was because it was a double rage, and double rage rings are amazing. Like, I can't express that enough. But here you see no rages, and what does that mean? So when you're using a base with no rages, they're usually going to be double poisons. But what if there's an invis and a poison? Excuse me. But here you see that the invis is only covering the town hall in this master builder hut, and the reason it's like this is because the town hall is only going to be activated when something hits it, right? Or when 51% is met. And when you have these like walls around the town hall, again, the walls around the town hall, they're not fully enclosed. And the reason it's not fully enclosed is because there's an invis tower here. And the invis tower is great because if even one Valkyrie somehow gets to the town hall with like the root rare spam, you have Valkyries most of the time the attacker's using, and if only one Valkyrie goes to the town hall and she activates it, then the invis tower is going to get popped unless it's frozen, right? And when you have basically these walls around this town hall like this, then the Valkyrie is basically going to go around and it's going to have to hit the invis tower before it actually hits the town hall. And that's like little things like that just make you like have the best chances for a defense. And Legends League, they're not going to have much time to plan. They're only going to have like 30 seconds to plan. And when they only have 30 seconds to plan, they can make easy mistakes like this, especially if it's a new base that they're attacking. And if you want new bases, make sure you order from Blueprint. The link will be in the description down below. And so basically that's the sides done, that's the invis tower done. What is the poison tower useful for? Why is it just in the middle? Why is it not a rage tower? Why is there nothing in the middle except the poison tower and two singles and an eagle? Well, the reasoning behind this is you don't necessarily want the most stacked cores on bases when you're trying to defend root riders. You don't really want the most like damage dealing cores, but on certain base styles you do want the most damage dealing cores, like the ring base that we just talked about. But when it's a box base, you usually want to make sure your flanks are strong, you know, because most of your damage is spread out throughout the base, and when it's the sides that are filled with all the damage, that's what's going to make it harder for the attacker. Because think about it, if there's two sides and they have a lot of damage on them, the attacker is going to have to end on one of those sides. And if this is only if they spam into one side. So for example, if they spammed into this side where the archer queen is, they're going to have to end on this side with where the RC is. And that's going to still be a heavy back end for them because they are not going to have much troops alive. And the reason I say that is because if they don't spam into the side, if they somehow, for example, find a way to spam into this multi-target Inferno Tower here, they're going to have two sides, two flanks that are super hard for them to deal with. And the siege barracks is simply not enough to deal with one of these sides. You need more stuff to go with it. So that's why on box bases, it's really important to prioritize the flanks. Great job by Ghost here. You can see his flanks are really strong and not easy for a siege barracks or like a queen that sometimes people use to funnel. And so when we're talking about like other things on this base, for example, like the traps. So let's have a look at the traps here. And as you can see, most of the traps are actually on the outside. And the reason that the traps are on the outside, for example, on this base, is because there's not a heavy core. So there's only going to be like a few troops that are going to be in the core. And when there's only a few troops that are going to be in the core, why would I have all the traps on the inside, you know? That's why on this base, all the traps are on the outside. And the reasoning for this is simply because these traps are almost always going to hit. And when I say almost always, I mean most of the time, because these bombs over here are pretty much helping protect against two things, which is like the siege barracks that might come in from like this army camp working its way down to here, or that might come in from this army camp working its way up to this one. And when there's bombs on the outside, it just makes it harder for the siege barracks troops to survive, and they actually take more damage, and then they end up dying, and the whole flank is weak because there's a lot of damage, pretty much as simple as that. And that's why I like this. That's why I like the traps on the outside like this on this base. And simply, these Teslas are back here because it's just a little psychological thing where the attacker likes to prefer to attack from the bottom side because it has a queen there, and it's because it's 5 o'clock. So it's just more comfortable. That's why the Teslas are just on the back end, and it just helps protect the warden a little bit more because that does a lot of damage. Nothing really special about the traps on this one. It's just mainly I wanted to show the emphasis on the root rider pathing and how you don't need the most like damage filled cores to defend against root riders, or give them a hard time at least. And this is a great legend space. I used it like 3 days and it was really good. It defended, and yeah. Alright guys, moving on to the last base style in this video is going to be the diamond style base, and this one technically is not looking like a regular base. It looks like it's been a farm base picked off of the internet from 2012, but you'd be surprised because this is actually the base that got me the best defense in Legends League out of all the bases that we talked about today. And it's crazy to think about, but it really is just looking like it's a farm base, and it really shows that the current meta, you need to get a little bit more creative with your builds. And this base, I do not know unfortunately who the base builder was. I just made a few tweaks from a base that I saw in Legends League actually. So a great way to get bases is actually seeing what your enemies that you find are using and if it's yielding good results. There's Legends League bots out there that you can see as well, and it really surprised me when I saw this guy's defense. Or I don't know what his name was unfortunately, but he was using this base and he had great defense and it worked for me as well. And it really, so when we look at this base, so let's just look at it, okay? So when we look at this base, and from a planning perspective, like when you're thinking about how to attack it, you probably look at it and be like, okay, well, there's 2 rage towers and they're pretty close to each other, meaning the damage is pretty close to each other, and I would probably just go in from 6 o'clock because I get rid of both the rage towers pretty early, and that's the quickest way to get to it. And that's where you'd be mistaken, because this base is pretty much set up to trick you into doing this. And when you try and spam in from this 6 o'clock side over here, the troops are actually going to go all the way around, and this is going to lead to like very bad things for your troops. And the reason behind this is because I want you to have a look at the troops, at the defenses that are actually inside of the rage towers over here. And as you can see, the double cannon, no, not the double cannon, the ricochet cannon, my bad, the ricochet cannon and the multi-archer tower here are covered in the rage towers rage. And the reason it's like this is because this actually helps weaken the flanks. So let's just have a look here, let's just envision it. So when you spam in from 6 over here, your troops are going to split into 2 directions. Some are going to go over here, and then some are going to go over into here. And the reason that the archer tower and the cannon are set up in this way is because they are going to kill the flag so fast. Like these two defenses are the best defenses in the game, obviously, and I will still say that to this day. And when they're raged, they're just a different beast. And the reason for this is because when they're raged, they just like they work together and they target like the same root rider sometime, and this deals like the most damage that it possibly can handle, like that a root rider can possibly handle, and it just cannot survive past it. And another interesting part about this base is that the clan castle is all the way up here. Like what is going on this base? It's just like so random. Why is there a clan castle up here? You could easily pull it, but like 2 archers or something, right? But attackers just don't think about it. Even myself, when I attacked him, I just didn't think about it because I thought it was so easy. I could just spam in from 6 o'clock and I'd 3-star it. But nope, I just didn't think about the clan castle, and that was the reason I failed at the end. And the clan castle troops came out at the last minute. I wish I still had the replay so I could show you guys, but everything was looking good until the clan castle troops came out, and then this town hall was still standing and this monolith was still standing. And the whole thought process behind this monolith is that there's nothing that allows any of the root riders to path to the monolith. Like there's a whole dead space. You see like these 3 wall pieces on each side, and there's nothing that goes to the multi-target Inferno or the monolith. And the reason why the multi-target Inferno is there is so that it can kill any skeleton spell that the attacker is trying to use. This was actually one of the tweaks that was done, and I think this is a great tweak because when you use a skeleton spell on a monolith, it just shuts the monolith down, makes it useless for like whatever, like 20 seconds it might last. And when there's a multi-target Inferno near the monolith, the skeleton spells get no value, and this just allows like the monolith to live for a lot longer, and nothing really kills it either. So it's like a great combination as well that I wanted to take a look at. And actually these isolated multi compartments on each like island type compartment on each corner, like this 3 o'clock corner and this 9 o'clock corner, we can relate that back to our talk about root rider pathing and when the sides are closed. But in this corner, in this situation, it's the corners that are closed, and that actually makes it really annoying because the multi just keeps dealing damage to whatever root riders are like picking off to the sides, and the root rider never goes to that multi because there's all these like outside defenses. Like you see the archer tower, you see the mortar, the cannon, and this other archer tower. It just has like a small ring of defenses that's not going to allow any root rider to really split to that island. And that was like a really interesting part because you had to invest the whole RC to go take down one multi, which was not really that worth it, but I had no choice because the root riders were dying, right? So that's what makes this base really good. And also the back end hero farm is actually like super underrated. You can really like incorporate this into your base styles, especially the diamond bases, where you have like all of the damage on one side and then the hero farm separated from that damage, and this can actually like lead to 2 sides with actual like equilibrium of damage. I wouldn't say equilibrium because it's not really equilibrium. It's just more so that the attacker thinks, let me just go into all the more heavy side damage, which I thought into 6 o'clock here, and then I'd be fine on the back end because it looks super weak. But those 3 heroes in that clan castle really do make a difference, and that was the reason I failed this base, and that's the reason why it was doing great for me as well when I used it. So that's pretty much it for this video. Make sure you go down below into the description. I'll be leaving all of the base links that we talked about today about the bases. We have all the base links down below in the description with all of the traps that I used as well. And also I'll be leaving down there the blueprint website if you guys are interested in buying your own new bases that are made here by the team, and we'll make sure all these things are incorporated into these bases. Have a great day, guys. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.